Ladies and gentlemen, I just finished watching The Boys Season 4's finale, and no, I didn't watch it right here, but I coincidentally am over here, so I was like, why not just record here? Regardless, I wanted to talk about the finale and my thoughts for Season 4 at large within this video, because I've been seeing a lot of discourse online, whether it's Twitter, YouTube comments, or things like that, of it being pretty controversial. I feel like some people hated this season, some people really liked this season, and then there's some people that were indifferent to this season. I was even texting one of my best friends right after the finale wrapped, and we were talking about it. We had different opinions. He hated it. I liked it, but I didn't love it, and I think a lot of the criticisms that this season has gotten have been, I think, earned, to be fair. Like, there's a lot of things that happened this season that just, I don't think they moved the plot really forward. But I also kind of understand that that's the point of this season at large. This was a big time setup season for the grand finale, which Eric Kripke is calling the boys' version of the apocalypse. And I'm not going to lie, I think they've done a very, very solid job at executing this story to put our characters in the place that they need to be for this big final season that we are to get. So, look, I think it's not necessarily all that bad. And instead of me, trying to spend this whole video talking about every little moment, I wanted to talk about my feelings as raw as possible. It's part of the reason I'm here reflecting on life and things like that. This season had a lot of good moments, but it also had a lot of bad moments. So I think I'm going to start with the things that I really liked about this season. I liked that this season in general, as I already kind of mentioned, I liked that it put our characters in a place that sets up that finale. Sometime in this story, you needed to do that. These characters needed to get from point A to point B, and of all the seasons that we've got, this one feels the most like something was accomplished throughout the season, despite the episodes at times feeling like filler, despite also at times the episodes feeling like, what the hell is going on with these characters? It still did a good job at establishing where things need to be for the finale. I think the season also did a phenomenal job with the Seven side of the story, specifically with Homelander. I genuinely think Homelander was at his best here, better than I've ever seen him. Anthony Starr continues to just absolutely devour this role in ways that are just unfathomable to me. Really, everything we get, whether it's a good memeable moment or whether it's his very serious moments where we're seeing Homelander in his purest form, Anthony Starr at the forefront of this is just, he's doing such an incredible job. It's impossible to pass up on that. He really is. I think the reason this season kind of sucked in some ways is because they did such a good job establishing Homelander that they kind of forgot how to write a lot of the other characters. And I'm looking at characters like Frenchie, Victoria Neuman, Starlight, people like that. We're going to get into all of that a little bit later. But another thing that I also really liked, outside of Homelander and how they handled him with the Seven, I liked Sage. I liked what they did with her. Firecracker was okay, though at times I felt like it mirrored reality a little too close, to the point where, this last episode literally was like very similar to what happened this past weekend in the real world. And I'm not going to get into the politics of that. We're not doing that on this channel. That being said, I liked what they did, and I also liked, and I know this was controversial, I liked that it did in some ways parallel real world things. That was cool. It was fun. Though at times, we're going to talk about that again in the negative, at times it did feel like they were just literally copying and pasting real world events into the story. That has its moments, and that's, neither here nor there. So I really liked the Seven. I really liked Homelander specifically. I liked all that. I also really liked Billy Butcher, specifically seeing Joe Kessler and Becca. I really enjoyed that dynamic, and it was a nice plot twist when we found out that Joe Kessler was literally just an imagination of Billy Butcher. I'm not gonna lie, I don't know if this is because of my weird obsession with The Walking Dead or not, but is it just me, or was Joe Kessler literally just Negan in The Boys? Like, Jeffrey Dean Morgan's acting was just Negan. Like, there was no Joe Kessler to me. We were just watching Negan on screen, but in The Boys, and it's an interesting parallel because Joe Kessler is supposed to be like the devil on Billy Butcher's shoulder, and I know it's his tumor talking and all that stuff, but really, Joe Kessler was literally just the devil, which was just Negan with a different name on Billy Butcher's shoulder. I mean, it was down to the mannerisms. He was doing the arc thing where, like, The Walking David can nail it, but he was doing, like, the arc thing that Negan does. He was talking like him. He had the little smirks like him. It was just Negan. That's all it was. I don't know if that's a good thing or a bad thing, but I think Jeffrey Dean Morgan at large he just does such a good job at that type of character that to me it's passable, but it was a little distracting because I'm like, this is Negan but not in The Walking Dead. You know what I mean? I don't know. I genuinely felt that way, and I know I've seen some stuff online about that too. I don't know. Those were the things that I really did like about the season. I mean, there's a lot of more little things, but I guess where I want to take this is kind of into the negative direction because, like I said, I said this in my previous video where I was talking about my predictions, I think Season 4 of The Boys is one of the best seasons in a lot of ways, but I don't know if I could call it the best season ever. I don't really think it was. I think it nailed a couple really good things, like it nailed Homelander, it nailed the Seven, it finally felt like we were going in one concrete direction with the characters and where they were going. But again, that has its negatives, which we're now about to get into, with my biggest one being the plot armor. There was so much plot armor with the characters, albeit but one of them, which I have a lot of problems with, and we're going to get into that, but the boys themselves just felt like plot armor, and I get that they are setting up this big endgame fight. I get that they're setting up a whole story there, going into the apocalypse and all of that, but like, dude, you know Homelander could just wipe out any one of these characters at any time, and it never felt like they had this existential threat at all, except for Billy going like, "Oi, gotta get him." Like, that's it. Like, it felt like it was the same thing over and over again, which has been my problem with The Boys as a group forever. Mother's Milk has a problem with Homelander. He kicks him out of the group. Then when he finally gets back in the group, he saves the day, and everyone's like, yeah, we really don't like you, but it's passable. I don't like that. I think that's absolutely stupid, if you ask me. You need to set up more tension with these characters, and if you're not going to do that, I think it's a fault of the writers, and I think this goes back perfectly to what I'm saying about Homelander. Homelander is written perfectly, but then you have all of these other characters that just aren't written perfectly. Billy Butcher's was okay, and I like Billy Butcher as a character a lot, and in my last video, I have to clarify this. I said I hate the boys as a group, but that doesn't mean I hate them individually. I love Billy Butcher, I love Hughie, I love Starlight, even though I think Starlight's character was also kind of obliterated this season. It's just them collectively together, I do not enjoy them. I don't think they work well, and I think it's a fault of the writers because they're just putting them in this vicious loop. I hate you all. Oh, whoops, we're back together. Oh, thank you for saving my life. Oh, whoops, we're back together. Not a fan of that. And I forgot to mention, it's just coming in my head, the other pro that I have about this season was A-Train. It was the biggest pro of this season. I totally forgot to mention this. A-Train's character arc was absolutely phenomenal. It finally felt like one of the Vault, like, product-made superheroes actually had something going for him, and I liked it. They turned a guy that really was, if you think about it, outside of Homelander, one of the central villains of the story, into, I think, a redeemable character. Like, I really do. And I was surprised that we didn't see him at all in the finale. I didn't really know what we were going to see. The only thing we saw is that his movie got canceled. I thought that was funny. I also thought it was pretty funny that they did, like, parodies of things in the real world in that segment, and they had Ashley basically saying that they can make more money from the tax write-off of not shipping the movie. I think that had to play with something like Batgirl or something like that in the real world, and I like that they do that. They poke fun at real things. That's why I kind of like this show in a lot of ways, paralleling the real world. Yes, it is definitely a left-leaning woke sort of story. Whatever, that's what it is. But also it kind of points every side of what's going on in the real world as a fool. Whether it is the left side, whether it's the right side, whether it's in independent stuff. And I don't want to get into politics too much in this video, but I like that. I really do think it does a good job for the most part, kind of pointing everything that we're seeing in our society to date as what it is. So Back to A-Train, I like that we finally got a redemption arc of some kind in the story. It felt like they fleshed him out. And that's where I was kind of going with Homelander being well written. It's also the Seven, too. Like, I genuinely think, and this is now bringing back to the negative, so I'm sorry this is like all over the place. I see people, running by, driving by, and it's a little distracting. That being said, I think they have absolutely nailed the Seven's storyline, but they've just kind of forgot about the boys in the process. Like, back to the bad. Frenchie, what the fuck was that story? Terrible story. They had him go off with a guy in the beginning of the season after shipping him and Kimiko the entire time, just for him to have this existential crisis about his past life as a CIA operative and how he killed the guy's family, but then they tried to ship this guy and him, which just doesn't fit the character and everything we've known about the character for so long. It was just him being like, we have done bad things. You know what I mean? Like, it just doesn't work. It just didn't work. It's stupid. And then he turns himself in only to be back because Butcher's like, oi, look who I got. Like, come on. It's so stupid. It really is so stupid. And then, of course, just as we all suspected, him and Kimiko get together in the end. Whoop-de-doo. Like, what a shock. What a deal. You know what I mean? Like, we all knew that was coming. I did like, though, and I forgot to mention this, at the very end, Kimiko finally said her first words in saying no, even though that was like, damn, like, that's a crazy way to end the series, or end the show, excuse me, end this season. With her, like, finally speaking, but in these dire circumstances, I'm so excited to see where that goes. But also, I know that the characters are probably not in danger because they have plot armor out the wazoo. Even through all of that, not one of them died. Not one of them. Like, okay, and I get it, you need these characters to be in certain places for this big endgame. Like I said, I know that. I get that. It's just like a little too much. If you're gonna do all that, like, you need some stakes with these characters. It feels like they are just as plot armored as Homelander. Like, these are just regular people. A couple of them took V, sure, but still, I don't know. I'm not a fan of that. I don't think it works that well for the show. I just don't. But the biggest one to me was Frenchie and Kamiko's story. It was the most predictable thing. And when they finally got together, it's like, oh, well, why did you do all this in the meantime? Just ship them. Sure, you need to have some tension in the story. I get it. But just introducing this guy that Frenchie liked, it just didn't fit. It just doesn't work. It felt like too forced to try to push some sort of narrative with the boys. Like, and I'm not talking about the boys the show. I'm talking about with the boys the group. It's just, like, you didn't need to do that. You really didn't. You already have some good stuff going with Billy Butcher and what's going on there. You have a lot of tension between Hughie and Starlight that you could have, done more with. And now, speaking of Hughie and Starlight, I have a big problem with Starlight. She didn't really do much this entire season, and then when she finally does something, she just gets mad at Hughie for being sexually assaulted by Starlight. And yes, it was a shapeshifter, sure, but how on earth was Hughie supposed to know that? Look, Starlight had her own series of, assault things, especially with the Deep. Like, it just doesn't fit for her to get mad at him over that stuff. It's so stupid. It really is so stupid. If you're going to do that, at least give it something that makes a little more sense. Like, maybe have Hughie, like, bang Victoria Neuman, but you can't do that because Billy Butcher killed her. Like, it just doesn't make sense. You can't get mad at Hughie for that. Like, obviously, he's going to think it's Starlight up until later, and then Hughie's whole thing where it's like, you know how I didn't know? Well, you were fucking her for 10 days! Yes, you did! I just didn't like it. It was stupid. Now, I don't necessarily entirely hate it, and I've seen some people have a problem with the fact that they did a whole Peter Parker thing with Starlight where she loses her powers because she's stressed and all that stuff. I didn't really mind that. That's okay to me. Like, that's passable. It's just like, I don't know why they wrote themselves into these corners with these characters. Is it because they had nothing better to do but set up Endgame? I don't know. So those are my biggest problems with the boys themselves. And my last biggest problem, and the biggest one of them all to me personally, is the fact that Billy Butcher killed Victoria Neuman. Now, I could get on board with the fact that Victoria Neuman has to go. Like, totally. I understand that in one way, shape, or form. but don't fucking redeem her. I despise when stories try to redeem a character in the very last-ditch effort of a story, only for them to die anyway. Why even do it? Why even do it? I don't get it. I forget what happened in The Walking Dead, but something like that happened in The Walking Dead. It happened with Troy Otto in Fear the Walking Dead. They brought him back. They redeemed the character, even though he was already a dead character. They brought him back just to die again. It's so dumb. Like, I hate when they do that. It's just ridiculous. And not only that, the way Victoria Neuman went out to me was stupid. It was just stupid. Honestly, I feel bad for Claudia Dumit, if that's how you pronounce her name. I feel bad for her because she did such a stellar job as Victoria Neuman, only to be slaughtered by Billy Butcher for no reason, even after Hughie was like, I need you to trust me, Billy. Like, please just trust me on this. And he just kills her anyway. And I get it. The whole thing was to set up Endgame again, because that's all this season was good for. I get that. But also, that being said, you don't need to kill Victoria Neuman to do that. If anything, give her a good way to go out. I think she needed to go, and that's fine, but not this way. And I understand what they were trying to do. It just didn't work. And I feel bad for Claudia Dumit because she was an excellent character. Victoria Neuman was a very compelling part to this story. And I get it, they were trying to adapt and change some things from the comics and blah, blah, blah. This just didn't work to me. You could have had Victoria Neuman as an insane ally to the group. Clearly, she meant it. Like, clearly, obviously, because they tried to redeem her within the last 10 minutes. They just rushed that. It was absolutely bullshit. And honestly, I've given praise to this season already, and I still stick to the praise, but it's moments like that I can't forgive. It's so dumb. It's just dumb. It's bad writing. It really is. I could go off about it. I spent the whole night thinking about this and how I was going to position this in front of this video. But the truth of the matter is, it was just dumb. It was just dumb, and a lot of the boys were just dumb. I'm trying to think if I forgot anything. The only thing I could think of is Ryan. I'm okay with what they did. I forget her name. I think it's Grace. I didn't really understand what Grace was trying to do. She was literally just trying to cockblock a good moment between Billy Butcher and Ryan for one moment before they were going to set him up as being this ultimate weapon against Homelander. But then Grace just goes off the deep end, if that's her name. I think that's her name. She just goes off the deep end and is like, wait, I love you. And then, of course, Ryan kills her. Of course. And I know a lot of people right now are speculating whether that means Ryan's going to turn more into a Homelander type. I don't necessarily think so. I think he was understandably heated in the moment, as anyone should be, especially a kid. And that being said, I do think Ryan's actor is doing a phenomenal job, and I've been very critical on the channel of child actors. I have been, and I hate to be honest, but it's true. I have been pretty critical of them. I do think, at large, though, his actor's done a phenomenal job with the character, and I like Ryan as a character. I like where they could go. I don't really think his story is bad or good. I think it's to be determined, to be honest. I don't know what's going to happen with this final season for him. I'm definitely interested to see, but I'm okay with what they did. I just don't really like how they got to where they got with him. And that's really what it came down to. This season had a lot of good moments, but I don't like where things went down with the boys. I think a lot of it could have been avoided, and I think that's the biggest problem with this season. Albeit some other stuff, the woke stuff, blah, 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 whatever. That is what it is. That's neither here nor there. But just the assassination of some of these characters to get to this point, I don't know if I'm a fan of. The only other thing I could think now is Ashley. I'm interested to see where that goes. I thought the whole thing was funny where the Deep put Ashley at the top of the list, and then Black Noir kills the wrong Ashley and he gets a boner from it. Like, I thought that was pretty funny, I'm not gonna lie. But also, in the same vein, I feel like they could have done a slightly better job with it instead of hypersexualizing everything within the show. I don't know, there's a lot of thoughts, and I think this is developing. I'm probably going to come back for another review of this season and predictions for Season 5, so definitely stay tuned for that. I want to know your thoughts down below. Did you love this season? Did you hate this season? Are you indifferent? I think this is a controversial season enough where we could have a pretty healthy conversation down there. And until the next video, I'll talk to you later. Peace out.